Hello everyone, this is Brittany Robinson from NotAnotherBrittany.com and welcome to a basic introduction to HTML and CSS for middle school girls. Before we begin, here's a little bit of information about me. Again, I'm Brittany from NotAnotherBrittany.com and I am a web developer and instructional designer. I taught myself to code back in middle school many years ago. I now devote my time to teaching other girls and women how to code. Back in 2014, I left corporate America to run my own business full-time, and I've been doing that ever since. I love traveling the world, watching sci-fi movies and Doctor Who, and eating way too much chocolate. So, about this class that we will be taking today. Again, we will be learning HTML and CSS, and these are foundational skills that are good for not only learning other computer programming languages, but also learning life skills like project management and problem solving and critical thinking. Throughout this course, you will learn to read and write code. And remember, learning to code is like learning to speak a new language. So it might look a little weird at first, but over time it will start to make sense. By the end of our course, you will learn to build a website and maybe even be inspired to start your own business. So why learn how to code? Well, most jobs now require STEM skills. That's skills in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And guess what? You can learn all of those skills through coding. In addition, many of these high-demand, high-salary careers involve computer science skills. Computer science skills are used by web developers, IT managers, scientists, doctors, and more. By learning these skills, not only can you get a great job, but you can also make a real difference in the world. Technology has been linked to poverty and hunger around the world, and by using technology and learning to code, you can actually help work towards ending some of the global social issues that face our world. In addition, Career Bliss reports that many of these STEM careers, such as web development and user interface designers, are also the happiest and most fulfilling careers in the world. So, before we begin, I've got a question for you. Who can guess the name of the man who invented the first computer algorithm? Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. It's not who you are probably thinking of. Okay, that was a trick question. It's actually Ada Lovelace, the daughter of Lord Byron. That's right, the world's first computer algorithm was written by a woman. See, computer programming was originally considered to be women's work. Women were believed to be naturals at computer coding, but then things started to change in the mid-'80s. In the late 1980s, marketers began advertising computers as being for boys. And today, after all of these years of marketing, girls now represent less than 1 in 5 computer science graduates. 71% of all jobs today require skills in STEM, which again is science, technology, engineering, and math. Women in STEM fields earn 33% more than other women. However, only 1 in 4 STEM workers are female. But you don't need me to tell you how to change this trend or why it should change. Just take it from this kid.
Let me drop it to you. This is how many people there are in the United States. But this is how many girls there are. 50.8% of the whole United States. But this is how many boys there are. There's more girls than boys. But let me just tell you, this is how many girls are in computer science. Yes, I am telling you 12%. Only 12%. Girls, we need to work on this. Big time, okay? This is Method Kate's telling you, girls, we're better than this.
So if that girl didn't convince you to study computer science, these next girls will. Let's meet some real-life girls who code and learn how they're changing the world. First, meet Sasha. Sasha Alston is a teenager who was so frustrated with the lack of women and minorities in tech that she decided to do something about it. She raised nearly $20,000 and started her own Kickstarter campaign to write a book teaching minority girls how to code. Now she's in college studying information systems. Next, meet Dia. Dia Kurdi is a teenage daughter of Albanian immigrants who has many relatives who were denied an education. After learning to code, she built an app to help refugees immigrate to the United States. She founded a nonprofit to send books about STEM and women's rights to girls around the world, and she raised over $30,000 for girls and women in need. Next, meet Jamie. Jamie Berger is a college student who's working to become the first African American to earn a computer science PhD from Michigan State University. She's a STEM diversity advocate and uses social media to teach others about computer science while highlighting women and minorities in her field. She also makes coding fun and mainstream by translating song lyrics into code. You can follow her at Burger with a Side of Code. By the way, can you guess which song lyric Jamie has written in code on this screen? Here's a hint. Now that you've met these inspiring girls who've made a difference in the world by learning to code, start thinking about how you might make a difference. How could you help make the world a better place if you knew how to code? What problem would you solve? Who could you help? Here's one way to start thinking about this. Start by thinking about a need in the world or someone who needs help. What is begging to be addressed? What keeps you up at night or makes you so angry that not more is being done about it? Then think about your skills, your special gifts, and your talents. What do people compliment you on? What comes naturally to you? Think beyond just what you want to do for a living. Think about what you love to do. How would you spend your time if you had no other responsibilities? What brings you the most joy? Finally, think about how all of those areas overlap. The sweet spot where each of those areas of your life intersect is your true purpose. This is the ideal way that you can help change the world, and coding can help you do that. So, what's your big idea? How can you make an impact for the world? Will you launch a podcast, start a blog, write a book, build a business, design an app? Now it's time to take action. Whatever your gift is, let's put it to use. And we can do that right now by starting your very own websites. Some ideas if you're still feeling stuck. You could build a website or an app or start a business, nonprofit, or charity that addresses any of these problems. For instance, helping the homeless and helping refugees, fighting poverty and world hunger, giving back to your local community, or finding new ways to save endangered species, help our environment, and protect the planet. Or any other idea that you feel passionate about. Are you ready? Let's jump in and play with some code. We are going to go to the URL that you see pictured here. So after you type that into your browser, you should see a page that looks like this. You'll see the homework excuse generator, and when you click on the big button that says click here, you will see some randomly generated silly excuses for why you might not have your homework. After you've clicked the button a few times, click this green remix button in the top right corner of your screen, and you should see a new screen appear. This is called Mozilla Thimble, and it's a code editor. It shows you the lines of code that make up this website, and in real time, you can see your changes over in the right-hand side. So when you load a website, you might see a bunch of pretty pictures and text and fonts and colors, but that's not actually what your computer sees. What your computer sees are lines of code. And the computer takes these lines of code and uses it to determine what it displays on the screen so that you see the website. Now you'll notice some of this looks like gibberish, but a lot of it is actually built out of real words. So in between some of these little tags here, which are included inside of the arrows, you'll also see actual paragraphs of real text. So not all of code is going to look like gibberish. Some of it actually looks very intuitive. So one of the first things that you'll notice here are the HTML tags. You have an opening HTML tag at the top of the page and a closing HTML tag at the bottom of the page. And that simply tells the computer that it is loading an HTML document or a website. Inside of that, you also have a body tag. You also have a title tag, which, as you'll notice, contains the title of the page. And each of the tags throughout the page will have an opening tag as well as a closing tag, just to tell the computer where that section of the page starts and ends. So let's say that we wanted to change some text on this page. Instead of having it say homework excuse generator, I'm going to change it to a sentence that says why I don't have my homework today. So to do this, you'll scroll down to the body of the page and you'll find the H1 tags. The H1 stands for heading 1, and that's the heading that's at the top of your page. To change the heading, simply remove the text that says homework excuse generator and type in a new sentence. So for instance, I'm going to type in, I don't have my homework today because, and then instead of click here, I'm going to change the button text to say click me. So just like you changed the heading text, you can simply select the button text and change it to say whatever you want. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it updates automatically in real time. So go ahead and give that a try on your end. Did it work? Great. Next, let's say that we want to change the color of that heading. So instead of being that gray color, what if we wanted it to be blue or purple? Well, with code, you have full control of that sort of thing. So let's play around with the colors. There are many, many ways to change the colors of the elements on your website, and I'm going to show you a few of those. So the first thing you can do is type directly into that H1 tag. So after the letters H1, go ahead and hit the space key, and we're going to add some style to our heading by typing the word style. Now, after the word style, you have to tell the computer what type of style you want to add. In this instance, we're changing the color. So you're going to type style equals and then a quotation mark. And notice as you type, the code editor tries to guess what word you are trying to type next. So it's trying to help you out with the coding. Now, inside of the quotation marks, type the word color and put a colon. Type a space and then type the desired color and then put a semicolon before the closing quotation mark. The semicolon just tells the computer that you are done with that line of code. There you go. Now that is called an inline CSS style, and CSS is short for cascading style sheet. Cascading style sheets is just a big fancy way of saying the type of code that changes the colors and the fonts and the visual styles of your website. We've entered this code directly into our H1 tag, but it's not really the best way to enter a CSS style. A better way is to have a separate style sheet or a separate file that controls all of the styles throughout your website from one convenient place. If you notice over on the left column, this website already does have that. When you click on style.css, which again is short for cascading style sheet, you will see this new page open up that has a few different types of code. If you scroll through this page, you'll notice that there are styles listed here for each section of this website, from the body of the page to the heading at the top of the page to the button in the middle of the page. You can control every element of this site from right here. So let's say that we wanted to change the font. Do you see where font family is listed below the H1 tag? That controls the font for the heading at the top of your page. So for this instance, I am going to change that font family to Helvetica. You can change it to whichever type of font you want, but let's use Helvetica for this example. After typing Helvetica, I will go back to my index page, and now you see that the font is listed in Helvetica. If you want to change the font color from the style sheet, you can click back over on the style.css and remove the hex code and just type the word for the font that you want to use. So for this instance, I'm going to type the word black, and as you can see, the font has changed to black. Now if we go back to our index.html file, we can see that the font is black. Now the last piece of code that I'm going to show you in today's tutorial is called Javascript. So far, all of the code that I've showed you has just been adding basic elements and colors to your site, but not necessarily allowing any interaction. JavaScript controls how you interact with the website. For instance, with this website, the JavaScript is generating all of the random homework excuses that you're seeing at the bottom of the page. If you look at your JavaScript code, you've got 3 variables, which are abbreviated with VAR in the code. So for this example, the variable my dog serves as the first noun, and we have a list of random words following that variable. The second variable is called ate, and that is serving us the verbs. And the third variable is called my homework, which, as you can guess, is serving us the final word in our sentence. So instead of sticking with the old my dog ate my homework excuse, we are getting a random list of excuses based upon the words that we tell the computer it can choose from. Each variable has its own list of nouns or verbs that we can program in and we can customize. So let's start playing around with these and modifying this JavaScript code. So for instance, we can change the word dog to husband, and we could change the word ate to slam dunks if you're a basketball fan. We can also change the word homework to an award-winning paper. So for each of these variables, I'm only going to give it 2 different options to choose from. Now when I preview over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that I am now seeing some of my options that I've just typed in. Now, the other thing I want you to notice about the JavaScript code is that it has to be typed in a certain order. You have to be very good about not making any typos, otherwise it can break your code and you will get what's called a code error. If I try to preview now with that typo, I am going to get a JavaScript error down at the bottom of my screen. So you can see where the computer is telling me that there's an unexpected string and that the excuse is not defined. And that is because I have this typo. The page will not work and will not be interactive until I fix that line of code. This is what we refer to as debugging when you hear web developers and coders talk about debugging their line of code. So now that you've had a chance to read and write and modify a bit of code on a real website, let's take a look at some code that exists out there on a professionally built website. This code that you see on your screen is from a very popular website that's out there on the internet. Take a few moments to read through it and notice any common elements that we've discussed today, any tags that might look familiar, and also try to see if you can figure out what website this might be just by looking at the code. Any guesses? If you guessed Queen Bee, you are absolutely right. This is Beyonce's website. So while we see this beautiful site when we go to Beyonce's page, our computer sees this, all these lines of code. Aren't you glad that when you go to a website, you don't see all these lines of code, you actually see the final product? So that's what goes into actually building a website. In our next class, we will dive a little bit deeper into different types of code and how to read and write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And by the end of our course, you will actually build your own website for the business, nonprofit, charity, or app that you have been brainstorming. Are you ready to learn more? I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.